Somebody years ago said to me, I'm sorry, I don't believe in the Bible. And I just looked at him and said, okay then. A comment was left that I saw this morning by Verna. And the reason I highlight certain people with their comments is because they think they're being smart, and they're not. They think they're full of intelligence, and they're not. Because when they say something, and then what follows that something contradicts what they first stated. Somebody saw my hot stuff video, or one of them, and said attention is like a drug. I said it is. I said, and so is trolling. You have to leave a snide remark. And this one wrote and responded to Tanya, and you don't smart off to Tanya. That's just stupid. That's just dumb. So this is Verna. She said it is ridiculous. And you know, putting Tanya down that she can't see how ridiculous it is, me dancing and having fun and trying to get attention for myself. And you all say go to his lives, but all he does is talk about the Bible. I like Mike. You do? For what reason do you like me? You don't like the Bible. You don't like my dancing. Well, that's kind of the core. I mean, that's like saying, you know, when you drive by a house, I hate the color, I hate the style, I hate the yard, that house is ugly, but I like the house. Doesn't make sense, does it? And this is the world that we live in. Trolls get on the internet. I'm not saying she's a troll, but this woman, you know, she looks happy. She looks quite a bit older than me. And I'm a little confused as to what you're doing here. You know, I'm younger than you, and I'm not going to apologize for who I am, and nor should I. And if you think it's ridiculous and you don't like that I talk about the Bible, then you need to ask the question. Why are you on my channel? And did you go to all the women and their channels that are truly trying to get attention? The woman sitting on the beach, putting oil all over her with a bra and panties on, with tattoos and gauges. And I looked at all the men, all the slobbering. It amazes me that a girl, you can tell by looking at her if she's really into herself. And I got people projecting onto my channel that I love getting attention. Do the men and women that say that to me say that to these women? They never do. And I always go for the deeper knowledge in anything I look at. Do I want attention? You damn straight. Who doesn't? But is it wrong? You know, people would tell me, well, you're supposed to bring nothing but glory to God. I hope that I do. But I go to church on Sunday, and people may not be trying to get attention for themselves, but I sure don't see them bringing glory to God. They're rude, they're unkind, they're cliquey. You are going to take a lot of heat when you do what I do. That's a given. That's a given. And I don't understand. If you don't like the channel, just go away. And Verna, you're not my mommy. I'm not here to win your approval of what you like or don't like. But let's go deeper. You got a problem with the Bible? That has nothing to do with me. That has to do with you and your heart and the Almighty. I'll be right back. When people tell me don't mention these people, I do. I have to. It's only proper. They want attention by leaving a comment. Don't think that they don't. They think that what they say is so weighty and so important to put themselves out there. So part of my channel is, all right, let's talk about the comment. Let's dissect it like we do an earthworm in biology. Is she correct? Is she right? Is she wrong? I mean, I've heard people say, well, there's really no right or wrong. Listen to that statement. There's really no right or wrong. That makes about as much sense as saying 2 + 2 = 5. The comments that are left on my channel by the haters and or the people that don't like what I do, they show how unintelligent they are. Somebody left a comment on one of my videos. This is what I get for having a phone. Let's unpack. Why would somebody say that? They don't like the video. So they're going to say, this is what I get for having a phone. The stupidity of that comment is self-evident. Well, then get rid of your phone or don't recommend this channel. There's so many solutions to this. The people that do this want to hurt, want to be known. They're seeking attention for themselves. Remember what they said with troubled kids? Rule number 1 of school bus driving. Those kids are trying to get all the attention in the back of the bus and acting up. They've said it so many times, it's drilled in my head. Negative attention is better than none. This woman thinks she's smart. She's not. She admitted she's got a problem with the Bible. She's got a problem with me dressing and dancing, which has been consistent. It's not like I came along wearing a suit and tie and talking about United States history. I've been doing this consistent, and you showed up. Maybe you heard a live, maybe you heard something you agreed with, and now you got a problem with everything I do. Instead of parading your ignorance, maybe you should have looked at my videos for a while before you even said anything and said, oh, this isn't for me. You think, Verna? There was a woman a while ago, not nice. She came and left poop stains on my channel, calling me gay and this and that. I went over to her channel and she had one video. Hi guys, I'm trying to get subscribers and I said, I wrote, coming on and making rude comments on my channel is not the way to build yours. Well, I can't help it if you're gay. I'm not gay, honey. And then her and her little simp boyfriends all started attacking me, so I put her picture and talked about her. Oh, did she get mad? She went on her channel. Some of them threatened a couple of the women on my channel. Grown men threatening the ladies for actually defending me. And I showcase not just one side of a Rubik's Cube. The Rubik's Cube of the culture throughout the USA is totally out of order. You're never going to get everything to line up. And men that just are so led by their penis will all defend a chubby dress barn girl who thinks she's all that on stage. Her attitude sucks. Her looks are nowhere in the 10 range. And she wants to go channel, but she's going to go to other channels and go pew, pew, pew. And then when I reacted to that and used the freedom of speech that she believes she has, I've committed a sin. And this is one of the deeper problems in American culture, is that people think they can say and do whatever they want, but if we react, you're bad. One of the guys I work with told me he was bullied yesterday. He went over to 7 Brew to get his icy treat or whatever it is on his lunch hour. And he stopped in a 4-lane road, had his signal going, waited to make a left turn. He started to go and he saw a moped. Well, he didn't want to cut it off. Well, there was a truck. He was in his car, and all he saw was grill in his mirror. And he started to go, and he saw the moped, and he stopped. And he said, that truck was just hugging me. He said, I cut in, went around Checkers, went past AutoZone, came around. He said, the truck went over to AutoZone, and the passenger got out and walked all the way to me. And he came walking out like this, a white guy. And he says, were you the one that just turned back there? And he's looking at him like, no, we changed drivers in the last 10 seconds and nobody else in the car, but hey. He said, I suppose I was. And as he came around, my coworker reached over, grabbed the pistol, and brought it over. The guy stayed back, so he saw the gun. And he said, I'm going to report you. He said, okay, have a nice day. He took a picture of his back license plate and walked off. I said, what did you do? He said, apparently I didn't get out of the way fast enough. I should have just cut off the moped. Let's say something about white boys in America, because they need to be talked about. White boys that sit on these queen narcissist female channels, then come over and try to feel macho and say crap about me. You are not a man. You have major problems. You'll sit there and worship and give deity status to crappy women that are immature, that never graduated beyond a middle school mentality. Then you'll buy a truck and you'll try to intimidate people on the road, and you'll crowd them and you'll tailgate them. You're a bully. You are a bully. You are an insecure pile of dookie-doo. Then men hate this when I talk about this because they have that false bravado. I've seen it. I'm not out there being a threat to anybody. But men that are insecure want to make it known. It's like they're running around in their underwear. And I'll be working in the yard and you'll have a car or truck go by, black or white guys. I've got my back to the street raking, and you'll hear them coming, you loud vehicle, and they'll get right even with me. And I feel like going up and say, would you like me to stroke your sausage? Would that make you feel good? I swear, why are you trying to show off to me? What's the reason for that? It's like guys coming over and criticizing what I'm dressing. Oh, you mean you want to date me and you want to change my clothing so I can be acceptable? Why do you care what I wear if you're not gay? Hello? And while you're projecting all this stuff and you keep coming back, I kind of wonder if you're not sitting there watching my channel with your pants down. I mean, I know the internet. I know the psychology of the internet. I know what's going on. And you got, I've pretty much narrowed it down to the corporate geeks. I'm doing well. And the gay Christians that are like that. I'm doing well. You know, there's really only a couple classifications in American culture. Secure men and insecure men. Secure men don't come and troll. Secure Christian men don't come and paste my site with all the scripture telling me how wrong I am for dressing this way. Secure men that are close to God will go off and say, you know, God, I've heard some of what this guy says. He seems to know the Bible. I pray that you change his mind on this. That's what secure men do. They don't come on here and do pew-pew. Pew-pew is for little girls and little boys that haven't grown up. Basement dwellers, skid marks in a toilet bowl, whatever you want to call them. I have endured 60 years of criticism, and it never ends. And people that dish out the abuse, the hate, the rude comments, don't like it when you call them out. If she's listening, I guarantee you, she's bitter. She's angry. I like what African Americans say, stay in your lane, and I believe in that. But when you bounce over into mine, expect me to comment. I live and let live. But if you're going to come to my channel and run your mouth, remember the freedom of speech you know that you have, I also have. So if you don't want critique, if you don't want feedback, you know, it's like I had to deal with kids on a bus for 20 years, different states. And kids will do something and they'll provoke somebody and they'll get punched. Bus driver, you hit me? I said, yeah, I watched what you were doing. You sat there and kept calling them names and then slapping them on the back of the head. What'd you expect them to do? Move up to the front. Man, I didn't even do it. I said, I watched you. And American men do the same thing. They antagonize. They antagonize by the way they drive. There's a speed limit out there. Did you know that? You don't own the road, and every American thinks they do. Every American thinks they do. That guy better get out of the left lane. Okay, the speed limit on the interstate is what, 65? You're going 75, and you think you have a right to bully somebody out of your way. But watch this. You fail to know the law. It says keep right except to pass. The left lane on the highway and on the interstate is not a camping lane. That is a passing lane. And you got the arrogant Americans that disobey the speed limit. They want to comment on everybody else's bad driving while they're breaking law. And what they fail to realize is many of those men defend their right to keep guns and will make a big issue about it. You're driving a 4,000 or 5,000 pound truck and you're breaking the law. And if you hit somebody, your chance of killing or seriously injuring somebody because you chose to be selfish. And I get this argument all the time. When you got people in America that defend their, what they call their right to speed, they actually don't have it. You're breaking the law. And if there's an accident involving you, it is automatically your fault. Well, he pulled over to my lane. You're speeding though. If you're going the speed limit, you might have been able to avoid the accident. So I don't buy that. And I believe that when God, when he reveals all of us and all of our foolishness, you think he's going to ignore that? He isn't. God is holy. Nothing escapes the notice of God. And Verna here has a problem with the Bible. That has nothing to do with Michael. Verna reminds me of all the mommies out there that want to pretend I'm their son and tell me how to dress, how to walk, how to talk, how to eat, how to do this. I don't need a mommy. I haven't had a mommy. And like dinosaurs, not the mama! You're not a mama, Verna. I'm not looking for a drama mama girlfriend. And I'm not being rude, but I wouldn't date you. You look quite a bit older than me, so I'm not interested. And I don't like people coming on here. If you don't like it, you don't even need to leave a comment. But when you do, and the comment is particularly stupid, then I will showcase how scholastic you are not. I think it's only fitting. I'm not bringing harm or danger to you. I'm just saying. To the moderators on my channel, be careful that your motives are right. But you have the ability to remove comments on my videos by people like Verna or confront them. You have the right. If there's somebody leaving an ugly comment, you can remove it. People come onto my shorts and people just show their ignorance. I just want you to know that God loves you and He really wants you to repent. I said, why don't you come to my live videos sometimes where I'm talking about the Bible and stuff, and then you'll find out I already know Jesus. Car salesmen Christians. They're going to run by and do a drive-by witness, scripture dump. Yep, I witnessed him. No, you didn't. You were a pew-pew warrior. You didn't witness anything. I'm amazed that people aren't deep in our culture. And I find that New Zealand, Scotland, Ireland, UK, Canada, America, not America, but Australia. Sometimes I see a little more deeper intellect than what I see with the girls here. Now, I'm not talking about all. There's quite a few American women on my channel that are kind and gracious and smart and discerning. But our country, this country has the highest amount of trolls on the internet over anybody. And I talk about serious issues. I'm very serious minded. But I also have a playful side. I also have I want to have fun side, because what Verna doesn't realize is she doesn't realize that I am 60 and that I work my butt off at a warehouse. I don't get off work and go to the bar and drink. I don't smoke a bong. I'm not out there screwing around. I live a pretty boring life. So if Verna has a problem and wants to tell me that I look ridiculous because I get down on it, that just means she's a miserable person. And Verna, I don't have to be like you. I don't want to be like you. And I thank God that He made me unique. It's like the starfish telling the barracuda, you're ugly. And the barracuda said, you're stupid looking. They have their purpose. And that's how America kills spontaneity and originality. You got a bunch of sheep in this country, whether it's insecure men, whether it's attention, WHORING women, littering the internet, thinking that they're the only woman with a pair of tots, doing all their silly stuff, getting 50,000 cent men. Oh, you're hot. Oh, I'd love to date you. Dream on, dream on. You ain't gonna get a date with that. You think she's interested in a serious relationship? How about the Christian woman? Verna, make sure you go to the Christian women and all the women on YouTube that are showing off and being literally dressed like they just crawled out of bed, bra and panty type stuff. make sure you tell them that it's sickening and ridiculous how they're trying to get attention. Make sure you leave those comments everywhere. And this is why I take issue with the people who make the comments. You come over here and say something, you won't say a damn word to the majority of people who do it. And you know, men are okay with women dressing like this. They're okay if they're sitting on the internet like this. I do this and all the men come over here and want to be daddy and tell me how I'm supposed to dress. Well, daddies, I'm not your boy. I'm a grown man. And it's not your job or business to tell me how to dress, including other Christians. If I go into church like this, a pastor has every right to say, Mike, that's not appropriate for here. He has every right. And I don't do it. But I've been in churches where women dress in way worse than this. They don't say a word. Went to Calvary Chapel in Prescott. There was a woman that showed up. She was good looking. Blonde, curvy, midriff showing. She had a tie on, red, no bra, nipples poking through. I mean, you could see the cleavage, everything. She came to church like that regularly. Pastor Al at that time, and none of the men or none of the women said, hey, you can't come in here wearing that. This woman liked me. Not, we weren't an item. I was downtown Prescott, and one of the people that lived in the Hacienda apartments, when I got home, he says, man, who's that chick you hanging out with? She looks like she's wild. And I said, she's been around the block. I said, but she's a Christian. What? Really? I said, yeah. That same church that I went to in Prescott, and I noticed on their Facebook, they have a 4x4 club. I've got plenty to say about that. I'm like, yeah, nothing's changed. I'm sure Pastor Al is probably dead by now. He was in his dang 40s when I was going there, and 23 years old. When I got saved, I believed I was supposed to be honest. And when I moved downtown, I sold my truck, got a ride to work with a coworker for a while. In '89, I bought a van and moved to Duluth, Minnesota. I had been through a lot. I was not close to my parents. I got saved in '85. Things got worse with my mother and father and I. In fact, the whole family. So here I'm living in a town that's connected to my parents. I moved out of the back house that they owned a rental property, and I got out from under that. Even though I paid them rent, I got a place downtown and started to live life. And I went to this Calvary Chapel, and I had a group of guys and gals. We were friends. We hung out. We get off work Friday and drive up into the mountains overlooking Prescott. We'd light a bonfire and talk about God. And I remember we all showed up at Burger King. And one of the guys, his name was Dave. And he started seeing this gal who was pregnant by another man. He started dating her. We're all sitting in Burger King, and the girlfriend looks at me and says, I'm going to tell you something, Mike. You're the kind of guy I never would have liked. I said, really? Why? I don't know. Something really bothers me about you. but I'm saved. And I can't believe how much I respect you. And I never forgot that. I'm going to say something to women out there. When I got saved, a lot of women hated me. They hated the sound of my voice. They hated the authority that came with my voice. And I'm like, I was at Denver schools. There was a black bus driver. She didn't last long. She came up to me one day. I never did anything to her. She goes, you know, every time I see you, I want to beat you up. I said, excuse me? For what? I don't know. I just think it'd be fun. I said, well, let me tell you something, ma'am. If you touch me, it'll be the last time you do it. She goes, is that a threat? I said, no, it's a promise. You touch me, it'll be the last time you do it. So I don't know what kind of weird stuff you got going on in your mind. I've never done anything to you, and you are making a threat. I'm going to tell you right now, I don't want to hear that again. Women believe in equality, then I do too. You hit me, I will put my fist through your face. You want equality? I'll give it to you. You assault me? I'll use an iron pipe or whatever it takes to get you off of me. That's the society I live in. I'm not a threat to anybody. There was a guy there named Jack. Let's talk about Jack. Jack is interesting. He was Irish, fiery, short, not gifted with handsomeness. Jack had a crush on Jennifer, but Jennifer's into women. Jennifer's Hispanic, and Jennifer does whatever she wants. And when I first started there, Jennifer seemed really nice. She was helpful when I was trying to find out how to get to this school and do this field trip, and then she started sitting at a different table and sitting with the bad girls, and she started to change, but I never did anything to Jennifer. Jack had a crush on Jennifer. He was a simp. Jack was not a Christian. I had to do a mountain run one day. So Jack covered my routes. I got into my bus. The driver's stick was removed out of the bulkhead and sitting on my dash. There were notes scribbled all over my route book and capital letters and exclamation points and scolding. He said, you have a bunch of kids in here that are under 4 years old and you don't have any Bessie seats. And I came back, I said, what is all this? You know, they just gave me that route and I got Bessie seats, and if there's more that's been added, I was unaware of that. And he started yelling at me and saying, I expect better from you. I said, you don't write in my route book, and you don't get into my bus and uproot everything and do what you did. And one day out of the blue, he said, I could kick your ASS. And I said, really, Jack? And why would you do that? I said, don't be so sure of yourself. Oh, Mike, it's not about sure, I know. I said, no, you don't, Jack. I said, one bullet to your head, it's over. He said, are you threatening me? I said, you're threatening me. And that's not okay. And I learned something after I got saved. I've had quite a few altercations like this. There's something in dark lost souls. There's something in dark lost souls that they want to hurt me. That's Satan. Satan prowls around like a roaring lion, seeking who may be devoured, and he will use godless people. Tyler Robinson was a disciple of Satan, shot Charlie Kirk. Themios, a disciple of Satan, running his mouth on the internet. You go back 50 years ago, guys would have jumped him in an alley and tore his butt up. Now you can run your mouth and have all the protection in the world. You tell the truth like me, I've been fired, I've been threatened, I've been doxxed. There's a price for being a Christian. And the Bible says a time would come when men would call evil good and good evil. And guess what? We're there. We're there. So Jack I stay away from that stuff. I got so tired of Jack. I walked over, they had 2 computers in the corner. And if you're sitting at the tables, you could see the screen. I typed in Alfred E. Newman pics. Pulled up one, the Mad Magazine guy. That's what Jack looked like. And I put it up on large on the screen. Somebody said, "Who is that on the computer?" So he said, "Looks like Jack." "Oh my gosh, that does look like Jack." I said, "Isn't that the Mad Magazine kid?" So he said, "Oh my gosh, he looks just like Alfred E. Newman." I just left it there. I find ways, without being diabolical, to make a point. Jack walks in, he says, "What the hell is this?" I said, "I don't know, they all thought it was you, bro." My last involvement with him, I had a bus monitor named Sharon. We got along very good. People said, "Oh, you bid on Mike's bus? Why would you want to ride with him?" She goes, "I don't know why you guys say this. Mike is one of the easiest people I've worked with. He keeps his bus clean, he keeps control of those kids, and he respected me. And he buys me cookies and stuff because he said, I really appreciate your help." Really? You're kidding. Girls believe stuff, and they don't even bother to investigate. And Jack was a butthole. And then one day, they had a transportation employees wall. And I walked to see who was on it. And there's Jack in a green dress and high heels and a purse. I said, "What the hell is this, Jack?" "It was an effing bet, you a-hole." I said, "Oh, really? You came to work in a dress?" And Jack would always tell me about who was gay in the music world. "Did you know David Bowie was into Ladyboys?" I said, "No, I didn't know that." I said, "How'd you know that, Jack?" "Well, it's pretty obvious, man. Did you ever hear the song One Night in Bangkok? I get my kicks above the waistline, sunshine." I said, "How do you know about all this, Jack?" He said, "Yeah, if I was in Thailand, man, they're all over the place." Jack claims that he met up with what he thought was a prostitute, got in the room, found out the prostitute had a penis, threw her out of the upper window, or him. There happened to be police. He ran out of there, jumped in the boat that goes out to the ship because he was in the military. And once they're on the boat, cops can't do nothing. And I had a discussion with others. I said, "You notice Jack always talks about who's gay and he can't stand gays?" I said, "He has a fascination with this subject. Do you think that maybe he has a problem with being attracted to gays?" He came in wearing a dress one day. He said it was a bet. Nobody's going to make a bet with me. If I want to do something, I'm going to do it regardless. So I learned about Jack. In my last encounter with him, I had the upper hand before I left town, and it was beautiful. Jack came up one day, actually trying to be nice. He said, "Don't listen to the women at that table." I said, "Jack, I don't." I said, "They're full of crap." And I said, he goes, "No, don't let them strip you of your dignity." But I noticed Jack would sit there at the table with them. I said, "Jack, why do you eat out of those chicks' hands?" "What do you mean?" I said, "Why do you sit there and eat out?" I said, "Jennifer's never going to date you, number one. Number two, none of those girls like you. And you sit there and giggle and laugh at them." I said, "You are reducing your manhood, Jack. You say you're a man and you tough talk." I said, "You are being a simp." And I walked out of the room. Sharon got on my bus. The next day, "Oh my gosh, when you had to go and pick up the kids for that field trip in the mountains and I transferred to Jack's bus at your last school?" I said, "Yeah." "Oh, he said he was so mad at you." I said, "What now?" He said, "He hurt my feelings saying I was a simp." And she said, "Well, I don't get involved in this stuff, Jack, Mike usually calls truth pretty right on, and Jack was very upset about that. He was not on my Facebook, but I saw his. And he would get on Jennifer's page, "You look really good." She never responded. Jack is a lot older looking than me. I've had to deal with so much crap. I could fill the internet for the rest of my life on the stuff I've experienced with people. I don't care if this world doesn't like me. I don't care if guys don't want to be my friend. I don't care anymore. What I care about right now, more than anything else, is what is the future for me? I know I'm going to heaven, but what about down here? That's the part that scares me, the unknown. Will the day come when I can't work anymore? Will I die alone? How will I die? And there is a loneliness within me. And I want somebody, but yet if that somebody's going to cause me stress and drama and problems, then I'd rather die alone. And as a guy, I'm very honest. I don't know if I could be married again. Lust is my problem. It's a struggle I've always had. And even if I'm interested in a woman and I'm attracted to her, that doesn't make lust go away. I used to believe that because Christians used to teach that foolishness. I appreciate all beauty. And it's not that I want to go and play with everybody, but I'm like, just lust alone. And you get involved with a woman, and if you dare swivel your head because a crop top or a tube top goes by and just look and don't say anything, she's going to beat you up and gild and douche you for it. I don't want to go through that. I don't want to deal with that. And I'm man enough to admit, I can't believe how many women I talk to, and almost every one of them has been cheated on. Almost every single one. And they're very bitter about it. And they're very hurt by it. And I think too many women go into a marriage and a relationship not realizing how we men are wired. And I'm going to put some of that back on you. Part of your vows is for better, for worse. We don't think about the worst part. If I'm going to marry, I need to picture that hot woman and say, you're going to love her, she ends up in a wheelchair and you got to wipe her butt and you got to put her in a tub? There you go. Can't have sex with her anymore? Oh, but even though you're taking care of her, you can't go get some on the side because you're married. You better ask yourself those questions now. Because this thing between my legs is a liar. Actually, it isn't. I had a friend years ago named Ivan. We parted ways because Ivan, there were some problems. He lived in New England. One of the first guys to come out on my channel. I liked Ivan. I used to joke with Ivan. He was a little bit older than me. He was married when I met him to a plump wife. Ivan's a little bit OCD like I am, but he would get on her about diet. And his wife knocked him around. Ivan took a lot of abuse. They get in an argument and she'd shove him and hit him. And I said, you should have called the cops the first time that happened. And I will tell every man out there, your wife or your girlfriend domestically assaults you, turn her butt in. Because if you touch her, She's going to have 911 on speed dial. And you're done, buddy. He got arrested. I didn't even know it. He got arrested. He had to do all kinds of stuff, pay fines. I said, Ivan, I hope you're going to divorce her now. And you know why he got arrested? Because he got tired of her. They had an argument. She came over like she was going to push him. And he shoved her. They were by the couch. And she, the back of her legs bumped the couch. She lost her balance. She bumped the wall, scraped her arm. Just a little abrasion. She called. All the cops need is that. Right there. That little scratch. You're done. Handcuffed in the back of the car. I said, unbelievable. You sat there and took this crap from her for years, and you finally stood up and had enough, and you didn't punch her or nothing. Why should any man get married in this country? It's freaking dangerous. And it's also dangerous for women. So why not just look at PORN and masturbate? Why not? The church will condemn that. But I'm going to say it again. There's less bull crap with me rubbing one out to an image than there is in getting involved with somebody that could get you to lose your mind and go to jail. I tell you what, sometimes two people don't belong together. It's like putting two feral raccoons in the cage together. That ain't going to go well. I tell you, and then you add feminism, you add all the crap. Males in our society, we don't have good role models. Sorry, guys that are into sports. Your sports people are not role models, okay? They're the 0.001% that are making way too much money, don't have to work a hard day in their life, and they get to play a game and they complain they're not making enough millions of dollars. That does not represent the manhood in the society that I know. One thing I like about Ohio is truly a blue-collar state. Lots of manufacturing, lots of factories. Ohio is a man's state. And the older I get, I'm really starting to respect us, blue-collar. Because we're the ones that get kicked in the balls by the government. We're the ones that get blasted. They talk about middle class, they talk about the elites, and we're quiet about the blue-collar class. We're the ones that are paying our taxes. We're the ones that carry the weight of this country, be it truckers, be it people serving in the restaurant, washing the dishes, putting the stuff on the shelves at the grocery store, and people we got a caste system where people will look down on you. Oh, you're a stalker in a grocery store. Translation, oh, that's all you do? It's a freaking job, lady. Show some respect. And women today expect that we have to earn a certain dollar amount. And the thing that I like about my channel is I'm learning there's a lot of American women that aren't like that. Thank God. There's still some women. There's one that said, Michael, can you move to Ohio and we'll go buy a house in the country together? And I'm like, that sounds so awesome. That sounds awesome. I have Tina living in this room. She's a good friend. We text every day. When I went to work in transportation, the guys were saying, you got a woman living in your house and you ain't bopping her? I said, no, we're friends. Mike, what's wrong with you? I said, I'm not attracted to her that way. I'm going to say something, ladies. There's a lot of nice ladies that are good as gold on the inside. But I have a problem. She was interested in me, and I said no. I said, I like you as a friend, and I'm not going to have a girlfriend living in my house. You're my friend, and it will always be platonic. Gina's a good woman, but she feels the need to be in a relationship. And she's involved with a guy that she said, I'm not in love with him, but she goes over there every weekend. You have to use caution with women like that. If you can't live and deny yourself and wait for somebody you really want to be with, red flag. She said, he doesn't communicate. We don't have deep talks. I said, so why? Because I like to be cuddled and I like to be held. And with Tina, I learned real quick, emotionalism will win, not logic. With a woman, I want a balance. Women have feelings and that's awesome, but I want a woman who has feelings and logic and they both work together. Tina was the greatest roommate I ever had. I don't believe I could duplicate that. She didn't disrespect me, my home. I didn't charge her rent. She offered to help pay for certain things, like the tree removal and stuff before the hurricane hit. She did things. Then she fixed dinner, offered to do that, bought the groceries with her own money. She makes a lot more money than I do. A lot more. Her husband, that she left, screwed her. He inherited 85 acres. She used her money so they could build a brand new 2-story brick house. She paid on that mortgage for years. She didn't get any of that. He gave her $15,000 out of being together almost 18 years. What a chump. And in Georgia here, if she had divorced him, he could go after her retirement. Now watch this. Guy lives in Deering, and he is an idiot, flirting with a vet young enough to be his daughter. A vet who's married. A vet who suddenly said, oh, he's abusive. A vet who said, can you and Tina fund me to have a veterinary clinic? You know how much it costs to have a vet clinic built like a house with all the equipment? Lots. Tina said, I'm not funding that. He got angry. She goes, why are you hanging out with her? Well, she's like a daughter. She said, Mike, I know he's got the hots. He'd go down there because she would come out and vaccinate our sheep and stuff, and then he'd help her in the office. I said, yeah, he's helping himself in the office, I'm sure. And he was a jackass, and he grew pot in the greenhouse. Tina spent $30,000 of her retirement money to build that greenhouse for him. She got nothing back when she left that marriage. But she, like me, I was married. We had $250,000 of an inheritance. I walked. I said, whether I get anything or not, I'm out. And my ex was greedy and unreasonable, and I put a stipulation. I will not sign the divorce decree. You give me $50,000, which I already had in my bank. I said, that $50,000 is mine. And you don't come after me for child support since you got $250,000. And we agreed. I'm going to tell you, man, you get a divorce, you call it on your terms, not hers. But I lived. The divorce decree in Minnesota is written this way. Neither party is seeking child support nor anticipates doing so in the future. But I know how women are. And so I lived with a certain amount of fear after I divorced. I'd do kind, helpful things just to keep the oil on the hinges, because I thought, I don't want her coming after me for child support. I heard in Colorado, $500, $1,000 for a kid. I said, that'd wipe me out with what I make. So I was not a deadbeat, and that's a whole other video, a whole other story. Then I ended up a good 6 years of living in Colorado. I took on his food budget and I took on his health insurance because she was completely irresponsible. And I got an attorney to clean up the mess of her stupid decisions in letting him, as a 14-year-old, hang out with a 21-year-old homosexual that was doing horrible things to him, which at the time, he must have enjoyed it because he didn't leave it. Got angry when I told him, you cannot hang out with this guy. Threatened me, my own son. And I don't talk about my son. I did not want children. I grew up in a jacked up family. I was adopted. Adoption means nothing to me. The Bible says you're adopted in a family of God. I'm like, what does that mean? And unfortunately, when we go through bad earthly parent problems, that affects our view as a Christian of God as our Father. Ask women, they'll back me up on that. And I've had a hard time with that love part of God. I love Tina. And Tina is a nice woman. But there was a lot of fake there. And I was glad to live with somebody and not have sexual things going on. Because I got to watch her. I get home from work. I've been with people and buses, and she'd want to talk my ear off at the table. And that stuff would drive me nuts. I said, can I just eat? And then we could talk. Oh, okay, I'm sorry. And then 60 seconds. But I had to change myself. I just thought, she was in this marriage and he didn't talk to her for years. She was earning the bulk of the money. He got military retirement, but he kept buying sheep, buying cows, using her money, taking her money, and ripping her off. And then she'd get home from work and he wouldn't even say hello or talk to her. I said, y'all slept in the same bed together? Tina had a sense of humor, but she could be fake. When we get off the phone, okay, you have a good day now. There's that fakeness. And I learned something with Tina. Her mother's that way. And women do that after they've been hurt. They put up that wall. And I realized Tina's not my cup of tea for a wife. But while she was here, the psychology of what I'm about to tell you, I was able to deal with those little things that irritated me because she was not my wife. So they didn't bother me as much. I disciplined myself, let her talk. She had a man ignore her ass for years. And so I'd listen and I'd talk back. And we had a good conversation. It's different when you lock down with somebody and you marry them. Those little things get on your nerves. The sad thing about the human condition is it's easy to be attracted to a beautiful girl. There's quite a few of you. And I won't name everybody, because then some people go, I didn't get mentioned, or, it just gets weird. So there's quite a few. I mean, if they walked into this house wearing this, Michael, I want you. Let's go. Let's go in my room. I have passion. But the living together, being on the same page together. And now, you're a Christian, you're involved, you can't lust. Ladies, I'm going to tell you a little secret. If men have a problem with lust, when they get involved with you, they're probably going to have it for the rest of their life. So you have to make a decision. Can you live with that? And before you answer the question, you guys race to the bedroom just in dating. Do you not think that works against you? How easy it was for him to get to, touchdown? And even in me, if I can get the milk for free, why buy the cow? Even now, and not now, but it's been a few years, but there'll be people from transportation come over and visit me and show their tots. I'm like, cool. I get a free talk show. I don't have to go to a cabaret and throw money and be in there buying alcohol, which I don't drink. I mean, I could. I don't have to do anything for that to happen. It hasn't happened in a few years because I'm not close enough to anybody, and most of what I see out here is a big disappointment. I think I could be married to a woman, but there'd have to be some conditions. Don't beat up on me for my struggle. Don't be so arrogant to think that you're the only one that's pretty. Men are wired to notice things. Character comes in when a man says, yeah, you're cute, but I got a damn good wife, and I'm not playing with you. My wife's good to me. You're gorgeous. Go away. That's what you got to go after. But women, I grew up before I was a Christian, and women would say men are pigs, but I grew up hearing the conversations of married women. And women forget this one. Oh, Robert Redford, he's so fine. Oh, John Wayne. Oh, you're married and you're talking about this guy like you want to, and that's okay, because you're a woman. But if my head swivels because a tube top went by and the nipples and the areolas are showing, oh, I'm bad, I'm a pig. Women, we are wired for that. God built it into our biology. It's almost a bait and switch. It's almost a bait and switch. I don't want to bring children in the world. God knows that. But, those boobies go by. God designed us to be heavily aroused. He wanted to guarantee that the race goes on. Now today, it's even worse. You have friends with benefits. I had a bus monitor write me on Facebook a couple of years ago. She was a user and a leech, always asking for money. I'd take her to lunch, and I'd buy lunch, but she was not a date. And one day I said, Mary, stop asking me for money. You call in constantly, your paycheck's short because you won't go to work, and then you want to mooch from everybody. And I said, I'm tired of it. She got butthurt and didn't talk to me for the longest time. And then she writes me and said, I'm part of a throuple. So what the hell is a throuple? She moved in to a boyfriend and girlfriend, and they both get to take turns with her. I thought, oh my word. That didn't last. Look, I'm very honest about sexual struggles. But if you think you're going to reinvent the wheel of what God has already prescribed and you think it's going to work, everything goes good for a season. You ever notice when you're disobedient to God, you seem to have more peace in your life? Things just seem to work better? That's an illusion. Because payday's coming. That girl that you thought was so hot, and you got in bed with her and felt so good, that warm feeling between your legs, and you let her fly, and something switched. You bonded. Now you as a man have a deja vu. Ooh, I feel wrong. I shouldn't have done this. And you pull back. Now that woman's angry. Now she's going to get revenge on you. It's very tumultuous times that we live in. How about if I tell you something? Most women that I think are attractive, I don't even want to have sex. I just want to slide up to the titty bar and suck. That's it. I mean, I'm sorry to be so gross, but I don't even want all the sex. That just gets so messy. You want to let your top down and open the lunch counter for me? Hey, I'm game. And that's what's happened in our society. Just as women say they don't need a man, we too have found a way to Okay. I had a friend come over here. I'm going to use an illustration. I put this here. On the other side of this is a circuit box. They had cut a big hole in the cabinet for some dumb reason. And I redid the back of it. And I spent a day in the attic where my heavy friend was down here pulling on a wire. Do you see it moving? I do. He said, this, see what it goes to. I said, it doesn't go to anything. They got wire caps. He said, that breaker's dead. I'll disconnect it, pull it. So I pulled 30 feet of wire and we started getting rid of a bunch of crap up there. I was the small guy, so I went in the attic. When I was in Arizona, we had those old, they were copper ends, tube-shaped, 1940s fuses. And my mother was driving me nuts. And I went out to my bedroom and I slammed the door so hard. And what I didn't realize is the junction box above the door where the wiring came in and hit the light switch for the bedroom light, the tape my brother-in-law put overhead, every time you shut the door, it rubbed and rubbed. And eventually it frictioned the tape. So when I slammed it, that copper hit the junction box, went and the lights went out. And I'm standing there in the dark going, great, I slammed the door and lost the freaking power. So I went out to the garage, looked at the breakers, and I pulled the one for the bedroom. Great, we don't have a fuse. I had a broken hacksaw blade. Put my gloves on, I put it in between there, my lights came on. That works. My dad came out and says, what are you doing? I said, Mom yelled at me. And I slammed the door and it rubbed the wire and shot the breaker. He said, there's no other fuses? I said, no. He said, you're not going to put a hacksaw blade in there. Go down to the store and get some. So I went down and got one and I put it in there. Because my dad reminded me, yeah, it fixes it. But now you got a problem. Instead of shorting out and clicking the breaker, now you got a blade in there, it could do worse damage. So my analogy with that is you can rewire something. Gays do it, lesbians do it, throuples do it. They think, oh, a marriage doesn't work for me, so let me try same sex. I was riding the bus here in Augusta. Went to, what the heck was the name of the school? I can't even remember the name of it. Starts with a G. Can't even remember the name of it. It's an elementary school. We go to a route, and this white female teacher come out, ignored me, had the whole attitude, and brought the kids. And the driver said, yeah, she went through a bad relationship with her husband, and she started dating a woman. And then that woman left her. And I was sitting on the bus and I said, really? Mike, why are you smiling? I said, I think it's beautiful. Because these women have a bad experience with men and they condemn us and say how evil and nasty we are. She went with a woman and she dumped her ass. I said, I think it's beautiful. I think it's exactly what she needed to have happen. Because I'm getting tired that all these women that have a bad relationship with the men, that's all you hear the women say. He did all this stuff. And I've heard it all my life. Never the women. Never. It's only always men's fault. And I think it's awesome that she got jilted by a lesbian who got intimate with her and said, nope, I'm not into this. She came on the bus the next day. And now I had a different attitude. I looked at her and thought, you go ahead and ignore me. And she started bawling. I don't know why she let me, telling the driver all this, and I'm just sitting there going, wah, wah, wah. I don't care. Should I? Does she care about the crap I went through? Did she date me first? It's not my fault you dated an arse. And then you project that onto all of us men. You wouldn't date me because I wasn't what you thought, glasses, whatever the heck. Now you dated a woman and she dumped you. That's awesome. I love that. That's beautiful. I'm glad that lesbians and gays are experiencing the same thing that we all experience in heterosexual relationships. I think it's beautiful, and God is not going to be mocked. There is no way that I could have a relationship with a cross-dresser or a gay man and think that that's going to fulfill me. That is a lie. And I'm man enough to admit, when I was in Hong Kong, I had a few wild experiences and some fetishes. It was good for the moment, but not the long haul trucker. Okay? And that's what's happened in America. We've replaced the cross-country road trip with the little rice rocket that we can zip around town on. That rice rocket's good for making noise in the neighborhood, but you don't want to go from New York to California in that damn thing. And as a Christian, I struggle because I have my flesh, which is horribly atrocious. I'm not morally pure up here. I hate to tell you that. I'm not. I love looking at the art and the diversity of women. I'm fascinated by it. There is no set of breasts out there that would just lock me in so much that I would never notice another pair of breasts, especially if they're showing. And it's freeing to me to be man enough to admit that. But what the problem is there's a lot of women in our country, they're not as honest as I am. They lust too. But when they wrap themselves around a man and he cheats, how could he do this to me? How could he not? You watching movies and you're looking at Robert Redford or whoever the big kuna is and you're feeling wet down there. You got the same thing as a lot of men, but you're not honest about it. Or you marry a guy and then you trap him. Then you turn. Once the ink is dry on the marriage certificate, you turn into the Antichrist. What's a man supposed to do? And you go to church, and church just adds fuel to the fire. Now we got to be beat up as men. Don't lust, love your wife. Love your life as Christ loved the church. What does that mean? I got to just crucify myself with this woman I don't want to be with anymore? No, I don't want to do that. My thing is, I do my own pest control. When I got a wasp nest, I go out in the middle of the day and I grab a broom and I go, and I run with my shirt off because I hate those things and I don't get stung. Same thing in a relationship. When something is unfixable, I think like a ship. You know what the mariners did in the Bible times when there was a storm? I'm going to tell you something. We're going to get something straight today on a nautical level. See if I can find it. This is the Queen Mary, one of my favorite photos of all time. That's a real black and white in the 40s. I've stood on that ship. And if you look at the front right there, forward of that funnel, that's the edge of the bridge. That's 104, maybe 110 feet above the ocean. That bridge wing that hangs out over the side of the ship, starboard and port. Look at how close the water is to it. Do you see the bow of the ship? You see the mast? You see the mast barely right there. That mast is what, 100 feet tall? You cannot see the bow of that ship. That bow is 60 to 70 feet above the ocean. That ship is in heavy seas and the bow has just, the water is smashing at the bridge windows. That's a lot to take for a 1,000-foot ocean liner. That is a skyscraper. That is the trade tower on its side, taking that. In the old days of sailing vessels, when they got into bad weather, the first thing the captain would do is throw the cargo overboard, lighten ship, so that the ship can ride better. I've adopted that strategy in my life. I got a woman who's dead weight. She's bringing me down. She's clawing at me, crabbing at me, and making me feel like crap. And I've already got my own storms to deal with. The next port, get off. You don't belong on here. You're not the crew with me. And the problem is we've married and we've ran into relationships because of animal attraction, because of this. I want to tell you something. The power of perfume is amazing. It's powerful on me. I've walked by pretty women with perfume. That perfume is just unbelievably strong. I'm like, woo, it just arouses me deeply. The sexual engine with us is huge. And I meet more and more women. I don't like sex. I don't want sex. Well, then what is the point of me marrying you? That is a major part of my life. I hate to say it. That ship is driven by engines. A lot of us men are driven by our sexual engine. And I'm not talking about being piggy. But that sexual engine is what drives us to want to serve and please a woman. And you don't have any sex to bring to the table? Wow, then what's the point? Because if you think we're going to sit here and knit little Afghans all day, I'm not doing it. I need something to carry me. And I want a girlfriend. But why do I want a girlfriend? Because I've been conditioned that it's okay to date and mate. I've been conditioned. Try that used car. Take it for a drive. It's bad. And we've quietly, subtly, and boldly walked away from what God wants. But at the same time, we believe a lot of lies told in the Christian church. Christian churches push for people to get married. And when you're my age and you're not, and you don't have kids in tow, there's no group for us. You might have the Christian mingle. Have you seen some of the Christian men and women at the church? Nobody wants to date them. Nobody. I don't go to those. I was cajoled into going to one in Spokane. It was a waste of time. When a woman with dentures and bifocals with the line in the middle is coming up, so what brings you here? Oh, sheesh. Well, I was just checking it out. I gotta go, Grandma. I'm out. And then I got saved in 85. So you have the philosophies and the belief systems of a secular society, which I've been born and raised with, and I got saved. And the Word of God has gotten a hold of me. But guess what? I still have rebellion in me. I still am a free spirit. And yet I feel chained to a job, to a church, to a culture I cannot stand. And that's why I get on YouTube to talk about it. How do we excel for God? How do I get close to the heart of God in a burning flame? How? How do we move from a textbook understanding of God to a living relationship like Elijah, Elisha, and Moses had? How do we get there? It's hard. It's difficult. It's painstaking. You will seek, you know, when you seek me with your whole heart. And we don't. In America, we've learned, because we grew up with the model all around us. In case of emergency, break glass. In case of emergency, pull down. Years ago, at the flea market or the swap meet, I saw a little glass that looked like that looked like where the fire extinguisher was. In case of emergency, break glass, so you reach in and grab the fire extinguisher. Instead, they had a pack of cigarettes in there. I'm like, oh my gosh. In case of emergency, break glass for the smokeaholic. And we've learned by the buildings and by school, we have drills, fire alarm goes off, everybody get up, go out the back door, and hundreds of feet to go to the end of the playground, and we got to wait for them to clear everybody. Well, guess what? We approach God like that. When we have a problem, we pull that red button down. Ring, God, 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 help me. Somebody's bothering me. I can't pay the rent. My car's broken. And when it's fixed, we walk down the hall. There's the fire alarm. We ignore it. We don't need it. We treat God like a vending machine. We want to pull a knob to get what we want. So when Verna comes on my channel and says, y'all talk about the Bible, wow, I didn't know that was wrong. Why is Verna having a problem with me talking about the Bible? I like Mike. No, you don't. I look ridiculous. I'm attention getting. I dance and I wear these clothes and I talk about the Bible. You don't like me. Don't lie to me. That's the same woman that say I'm doing well. Welcome to our stupid society. Please stare at my kitchen wall while I seek to unload my butt cheeks in the bathroom. I will return in a moment. We're going to the store, folks. One of the things that I've had to come to reckon with is my own self. And we men have had to put ourselves on a guilt trip. Am I worthy of that woman? No, we need a balance. Is she worthy of me, my attention, my physical energy, and my time and my money? And if you've noticed, our society is very female dominated. They say, oh, you're lucky to have her. Hey, excuse me, she's lucky to have me. Thank you very much. Why is this a lopsided, one-sided deal? That's part of the problem of why there's a lot of problem with a lot of narcissism on the female side of things. Michael, me, I've grown up in a lot of bull crap. And because of that, it's taken me years, but I learned to spot bull crap easier now. And I don't have patience for it because of what I've experienced. I'm not going to tolerate certain things. You smoke? Cool. We're not dating. You do pot? We're not dating. You drink? We're not dating. You got dogs and dogs are so important to your life? We're not dating. You heavy? You overweight? We're not dating because I'm not going to force myself to do something I don't want to do. Women aren't. Women are not. Women will not force themselves to do what they want to do. Why should I? Should not. The marriage is supposed to be a helpmeet, one who's suitable for him. And you have to look at a lot of things. What is a woman's interest? What drives her? What is her heartbeat? What powers her ship across the ocean? I want to tell you something. It takes a long time to figure that out. A long time to figure that out. You know, dating and mating is an illusion because sex is powerful. It feels good, but it does something. You just formed a bond with somebody. You've just had an MINI, a mini marriage, and it's going to blow up. You know. We think that we can put the horse before the cart, or the cart before the horse, and do things our way instead of God's way. And then we wonder why it went to hell. What did you expect? And people believe that. And they act it out. Well, you know, God will forgive. God does forgive. But God doesn't erase the consequences. I'm going to tell you that right now. Look at Ishmael. Look at Sarah and Abraham. Look at what happened in Spain. If you take Abraham and Sarah and they were to trust God and wait for the promise of the son, Ishmael would have never been born. You would not have had 50, 60,000 people rush the Spanish border. Let that sink in. That sin of Sarah and Abraham, they're dead and gone. And they're alive because they both are in the presence of God. But their stuff goes on. And when we have soul ties with somebody, those don't go away. Yes, I use a toothbrush as a pick in between my teeth. Dennis always told me, man, you have very little tartar buildup. When I worked at Richmond County Transportation, I was amazed about the men that worked in our shop. A lot of them were buttholes. They thought they were, you know, supreme mechanics. Most of them are not ASC certified at all. Most of them can't work on anything. And they hire anybody down there. And I'm not saying that out of spite, it's the truth. And a couple of the foremen would treat me like I was just a little stupid boy. One of them would call me, he's 47, balding. You know, he looks like a southern boy, got the ball cap on, but he's balding, pot gut, and he's got a testosterone complex. I would walk up to tell him something, he'd be sitting there idling the truck for 3 hours every morning. That's your tax dollars to work in America. Let me tell you something. The school district in America wastes more money than you care to admit, and transportation everywhere in America is not efficient in the school system. It's tax money, easy come, easy go. So I I would tell him something or ask him something, and he didn't like it that I would ask him a work-based question, and he'd drive off as I'm coming. And I would throw my hands in the air like, what the hell? You saw me coming. Passive-aggressive bullcrap. And the other guy was a vagina, missing most of his teeth, and always yelling, and I called him a vagina. In my mind, I thought, he's like a male, female. I told those people you can't go through this gate, and you can't. They drive through and do whatever the hell they want. Then you get called in the office for yelling at the drivers. And in 2020, I had to run a program that they had during the summer. Pick up students that it was a career-based education where they make manufacture parts, and as well as get student teaching and curriculum. And the electronic gate, they didn't want the buses going out by the shop. So the gate to go out on the main road was jamming up and not working. And somebody taught me you could remove the plastic box, flip the gate switch to off, and you could pull the gate open. And I did that. The drivers had all lined up. Mike, we can't get out. I said, I'll take care of that. And they were able to get to their routes on time. Big mouth, come up. What are you doing opening the gate and pulling that box off? And why are you turning? You're not supposed to do that. I said, they put me as the captain over this program. They need to go run their routes. What was I supposed to do? If they go out that gate, you're going to ride them up. I didn't damage anything. I turned off the switch because one of the mechanics taught me that. He did come back later and say, I'm sorry. I shouldn't have yelled at you, but I'm tired. All these people don't know what the hell they're doing around here. I want to say, quit your menstruating, and your teeth are missing, and your breath stinks. And I tried to be nice and respectful to this guy for years. I live in a world in America where most men just have this automatic assume that they're way better than me, smarter, mightier, better looking, whatever it is in their clouded judgment. And I've had to bite I know I'm a Christian because I've never said, you know what, you. Because as a Christian, I'm not supposed to do that. But that's the world I live in. And that crap went on every day. He'd pull up through the fuel pumps going the wrong direction. What bus was that just went through here the wrong way? I said, I don't know. It came through so fast I didn't catch it. Well, I'm getting tired of that. I said, well, you and your mechanics do it every day. He didn't say a word. And he still kept doing it. And he speeds through there, drives like a banshee, complaining a bit. These drivers don't know how to drive. They don't follow the rules. You go 80 miles an hour up the frontage road in the complex. It's 5. Don't you love adults that are screaming and yelling at everybody and they don't model a damn thing themselves? Isn't that freaking awesome? And I see that all my life. It's a dumb world, folks. And that's the world I live in. And what really bothers me is it does take self-control. So, you guys are talking down to me. And you guys have been born and raised in this dumbass town. And you think you're all that. When I was at Denver schools and I rode up my bus, the foreman and the mechanics did not treat me the way you clowns do. My bus was ready the next day. Problem fixed. You guys are unprofessional. You're a bunch of redneck, yup now, stupid people thinking you're all that on a damn stick. And I'll tell you what, it bothers me. And I realize it's not just them. It's women. It's men. It's It's women that are this big. Got a attitude. They think that they're the cat's meow in the Taj Mahal. Isn't that amazing? Isn't that amazing? And the Bible says something. Do not think of yourselves more highly than you ought. People come on my channel, criticize me for dressing this way. You see I go out in public like this. I don't care what people think. I spent too many years trying to worry about gaining man's approval. And guess what? It doesn't work. It doesn't work. I've learned when I've had my back up against the wall, that's when you find out who your friends are and are not. When you got trouble, you may have 5,000 Facebook friends. There was a woman down Denver, a black woman. She was pretty, but she was full of herself. She'd been married numerous times and kept going after dumb man that wanted to use her for the fun treats of the sexual experience, but he didn't give a shit about her and wanting a relationship. And then they lived on her couch. Ooh, maybe it's gonna rain today. No cats back there making love. I wonder why. Boy, is it muggy out here. Let's go to the store, folks. I cared too many years and spent too much energy caring about what people thought of me. And it didn't do anything. It didn't give me any more money. It didn't give me any better job points. My supervisor at work, he gets around a couple of other men. When it's just me and him alone, he's like, hey, you need any help? I said, yeah, you know what, if you could pull these, because I said I'm kind of swamped. Yeah, no problem, man. But you get around a bunch of other guys and the dynamic of three kicks in. Because I'm nice, because I will not tell him F you or talk rude to him, he'll slight me in front of other people. And I told him one day, I said, I don't know why you do that stuff. Why would you be rude to your best employee? He told me. He said, because of you here, oh wow, my neighbor's nice and mowed my front. I don't even need to mow that part today. That was awesome. I remember after Helene hit, my neighbor came up to me. Actually, I was in the yard cutting that oak. He stood in his yard and he says, he looked over him, he says, oh wow. And he started shaking his head and laughing. He says, you got a mess. I said, I know, can you believe that? I said, that was the tree that the tree service said was solid and good. And down she went. I still remember the sound of this day. Tina and I were standing at the living room window, and you couldn't go down this street. You couldn't go down any of these streets. Every street was blocked by multitudes of trees. Big ones that you couldn't drive around. You couldn't pull with a chain out of the way. But that sound of that crack when the wind pushed at 106 miles an hour and that one big root just went POW! Just unbelievable. There's still big stumps laying all around the neighborhood that were too big for people to cut up. I gotta get rid of mine in my driveway. It's driving me nuts every time I back in. Somebody took the shopping cart all the way from Big Lots. How stupid. That's a long ways from here. I do not think that I'm God's gift to women. But I've gone through the psychological neurosis. Oh, that is a pretty crepe myrtle tree, all purple blooms. I've gone through the psychological neurosis, sexually, mentally, being alone. I remember years ago, I had a couple male friends, and I'd always bend their ear about my struggles. One of them would bend my ear with his. I don't do that now. I don't call up and whine to people. And sometimes it's intimidating when you realize you're alone. And yes, the Bible says God never leaves us nor forsakes us. I get that. But let's be honest, sometimes it feels like he's not there, doesn't it? Sometimes it does feel like he is not there. And that's why you can't go by your feelings. When people learn to fly airplanes, and I've talked to people, I've met quite a few people that have, took the classes and stuff to get, a license to fly Cessnas and Piper Cubs, and then those who wanted to fly 747s. And one of the things I heard from them over and over is you get into fog where you cannot see what's out the windshield of your plane. You have to trust your gauges. They said even your body will mislead you. Your body will make you think you're flying upside down when you're right side up. And that's why we have to use God's word as our guide and say, you may not feel like he isn't there, but what does it say? I will never leave you nor forsake you. And you have to verbally tell yourself that. It doesn't matter what you're feeling. You got a fog in your life, or you got confusion, or the devil's trying to get you to doubt, and you need to verbally self-talk and say, the Bible tells me God never leaves us nor forsakes us, so get out of here, devil. It is an interesting world. And people say, Mike, do you have any dreams? I have lots of dreams, but I know realistically they're not going to happen. I told somebody, in fact, I told my supervisor the other day, I said, I wish I could have an Indiana Jones moment. I've been plugging along at work, been here 7 years now, haven't done anything grandiose, fun, and exciting. And, I read Clive Cussler books. I used to watch the Young Indiana Jones Chronicles, and can I be honest, viewers? Sometimes that's had more of an affect on me than Christianity, because Clive Cussler, the main character of the story, is Dirk Pitt. I don't know how they come up with those names. And in every book, he's got a different hot woman that he's pursuing or on the case with him or whatever. And I'm like, wouldn't that be nice just to enjoy all the different pretty women and have a love tryst with them? I mean, that really, you're not married and you could just enjoy. But Dirk Pitt finally marries the one woman that holds his heart more than any other. And their marriage ends up being good, and they work together solving cases and stuff. I used to love that TV show, Heart to Heart. That couple solving mysteries. That was a very awesome show. Very cute show. Dude, you need to slow the hell down. And you got advertising all over that retarded truck of yours. That's real good. But, I don't know if you guys ever paid attention to Esther in the Bible, but there's something that needs to be notated. Queen Vashti refused to parade herself in front of the king's men when he was having a week of parties and showing off his wealth and the alcohol and the wine and telling please come and dance. And she said, no, I won't. So it begs the question, was Vashti wrong for doing that? For refusing? And let's ask that question, ladies. Because Xerxes got pissed. And he went to his own men and advisors, and they said, put her away and find another wife. Because if you let her get away with that, all the women will rise up against their husbands. And we could argue back and forth that a real loving, godly man would never make his wife do something she's not comfortable with. And here's what's wild. We talk about the Bible and in close. Let me ask you this. See, you hurried up and got around me, and look where you are, dude. You're at a red light. Why do Americans, doesn't matter where I go in this country, Americans race to the red light to get around you, be stupid, aggressive, got all his football stuff all over the back of his truck, and you're sitting there at a red light? Why do people do that? Their neurosis of American drivers needs to be studied. Men older than me, men with white hair, I got to get ahead of him. I got to beat him at the red light. I don't understand that. All right, hurry up, go. You want to get around everybody? Go, it's green. Hurry up, move. Then they sit there and don't go. And he put basically a beauty pageant in place. And Mordecai was related to Esther and said, hey, put yourself out there. Hold up. Xerxes was not a Jew. God told him not to intermarry. So what's going on here? What's going on here? That's a good question. It does seem like there's contradictions in the Bible. And the word God is not mentioned in the entire book of Esther. Did you know that? The word God is not in the book. Haman was this wicked man. He was out for self-promotion. And Haman, he hated Mordecai because Mordecai wouldn't bow to him. And let me tell you something, Christian. That's why Jack threatened me, because I wasn't impressed with his BS. That's why women are nasty to me, because I don't worship them. Because I don't, if I see that a woman's a B-I-T-C-H, I'm going to treat her as a B-I-T-C-H. Meaning, I'm not going to give you the satisfaction of looking at you with kindness in my eyes. I will look over, around, and through, and the only time I'll talk to you if it has to do with work, I'll say, yes, ma'am. And I've noticed something about the vanity of women in our society. They want to ignore us. They want to cock block us. They want to, get the upper hand over us first. But boy, when you do it to them, ooh, they hate it. And I learned that a long time ago when I was living in Duluth. A lot of pretty women at the university up there. And I tried some experiments. If I ever said hello to the women that were walking towards me, they'd ignore me. So I stopped. I thought, okay, women don't want to talk. They don't want to be nice. So when I walked, I wouldn't even look at them. I'd look over, around, and through them. 9 times out of 10, that pretty woman would say, hello. Now, why is she saying hi to me? I'm not making eye contact. Because they didn't get to snub you. And they don't like it that you're ignoring them. They're going, why is he not looking at me? Every man looks at me. Yes, women are like that in this society. Not all, but a lot. And I live in a world, people say, what are you going to do this week? What am I going to do? Get away from people. I go to the store early because I don't like to deal with it. I go to the flea market because I'm friends with some of the oddball people out there. And I say oddball because they're like me. We're not the mainstream. And it makes me mad when you see what's going on in politics in Washington. And even the church is run like a lot of politics today. It's the who's who. They're not necessarily godly. They're not necessarily any closer to God than you or me or anybody else. They think they are. And I've noticed in our culture, one of the biggest problems in our culture is everybody thinks too highly of themselves. Everybody. I believe I have an honest assessment of myself. People get on my channel in the beginning of this channel and say he has no self-awareness. Honey, I have a lot of self-awareness. Believe me, I'm very self-aware. They look like a pig standing on a rubber thing with legs. And Esther, you know, it's implied that the king took these women one by one into his chamber. Let's be honest. I'm pretty sure he had sex with them. Mordecai was a God-fearing man. And he promoted Esther to do this. And what was going on is God was using Esther, being married to the king, to overturn a plot by Haman to kill all the Jews. But yet God in his word says, do not intermarry. Do not have sex before marriage. So why do I bring this up? Maybe we don't know the mind and heart of God as much as we claim to. Look at Boaz. She slept at the feet. Or not Boaz. Ruth slept at the feet of Boaz. And he wakes up. What's this damsel doing at the edge of my bed? You know, they'd have mattress firm and beauty rest. Probably laid on the ground on some, you know, hay-made cushions or something. And then he finds out he's the kinsman redeemer of this young lady. And she's in the genealogy of Christ. Rahab was a prostitute. She's in the genealogy of Christ. That's fascinating stuff. And it's not that the Bible contradicts itself. Hosea was told to marry a prostitute. I don't remember that in the Levitical law. You will go marry a prostitute. He said if a woman was caught in adultery, she was to be stoned. And she did. She went and played the harlot, and God said, go get her again. He was using that as an illustration of his relationship to Israel. They kept whoring after other gods. And I want to say something to everybody in America listening to me and around the world. You may have your opinion to me. That's all well and good. But I hate to break it to you. God knew in eternity what I am. Before I was even born in 66, God knew me. Always remember that. When you guilt trip yourself to death and I'm not worthy, none of us are worthy. God saved us. Not because of anything we did, but because of his mercy. That's it. That's it. There's no boasting for the Christian. There's, you know, if Jack were to get saved, he's not going to go to heaven and say, I had more muscle than Mike Nelson. I'm stronger than him. That's just not going to be there. The only reason any of us are here in heaven is because of God's grace. That's it. Car psychology is fascinating too. I've learned not to look at motorists because they use their cars a way to get attention. You know, everybody buys the same ugly vehicle today. They all look the same. You very hard to tell a car's power. Back in the day, you could tell a Dodge Coronet from a Swinger, from a Dart to a Challenger to a Charger to a Cuda to, you could tell a Chevelle from a PTO or a GTO, PTO, power takeoff, but you know, the Judge. And today they all look the same, all of them. And people get really have been dumbed down by our society. They're going to pay all this money for a car that's got more plastic than steel in it. And it will not last as long as the classic. Will not. And people have been duped by the corporate world. They've been duped. So, shall we go to the store again? Let's do it. Oh my gosh. I feel like I'm walking around half naked. These basketball shorts, they're girl shorts, but they're so comfortable. But I would never go to the store in pajamas. That's stupid. Look, my glass is fogged up because it's so humid outside. The AC in the truck. That happens in Minnesota when you're 25 below and you're outside and you come into the building in that steam heat, your glasses fog and freeze. I'm like, my glass just iced up. Need glasses with windshield defrosters. Peaceful out here. The Walmart birds are chirping. You ever grab a cart and the wheels roll uneven or lock up? We're gonna have to mute. Maybe the music isn't on. I notice you look at people that are staring at you and they'll nod or smile and they don't do anything. That to me is basic rudeness. And you get a lot of that here, especially with a certain culture of women. Very, very rude. They'll stare at you and you look at them and smile and nothing. I don't like that. Don't like that stuff. Look, should I get some hair dye with my Clairol? Hair accoutrements. My hair isn't long enough for that yet. Colette's probably watching me. I better check the shoes. I better check the shoes. Oh, they move things around in here. See if I can find shoes. Let's see. All right, Colette, where's the girl shoes? These are the kids' shoes. I don't know kids' shoes. It's the kids' section. I can't find. Oh, they're over here. 24 bucks. That's a 9, that's a 10. Ooh, that's an 11. These are flat. I don't think my foot these aren't quite long enough. An 11 is too small, Colette, if you're listening. I guess I just have big feet compared to women's shoes. $24 for those. Those aren't even cute. You see, there's not much. There's not much. So back to the chat. One of the reasons I turned the chat off in the past is because people just got crazy, complaining about this, complaining about that, and then I couldn't talk about a topic. And then you'd have people coming, what's the topic? You guys are just talking about everything. What's the topic? I'm like, so when I had the chat on, they complained. When I had it off, they complained. I'm like, and I agree with what a supervisor of mine told me years ago. Adults are like kids. Nothing really ever changes. Boy, those are comfortable too. You don't have them in my size. That sucks. Tell you what, ladies, it's a lot easier if I have a lady come with me than me doing this. I like that. That's comfortable. I like the lace. Where are the clearance racks? There's a price difference. Oh, this finally went up. No, there is a price difference. So this is 67 cents at this store, and it's 99 cents at the one that's closest to me. Now that makes no sense. Walmarts are supposed to be the same across the board. All right, let's see what we need. Do we have? Oh, wow. We go to this one. There we go. Gotta get this stuff. Mac and cheese, man. Gotta get it. Chicken broth has yeast in it, and I'm allergic to yeast. So that's a no-go. They don't even have that stuff. Did they stop carrying it? I guess they did. Wow. Gotta get my snacks. So stupid. I hate it when I don't have that. I actually hate it when I don't have that. And to answer your question, do I ever have insecurities? I do. I feel pretty self-conscious out in public sometimes because I just see a lot of people as, being the way they are. They're not very nice. So sometimes I struggle with it. Sometimes that's why I do what I do. To push through it. I want to know what happened to that Jamaican jerk food. You can't tell me they just totally discontinued it. That stuff was very popular. Very strange. Yeah, they must have just nixed it. Every time I get used to something, it goes away. They're trying to kill me. I'm telling you. Is it down here? Oh, look. Now they have what I need. So they discontinued the Jamaican jerk stuff. Why? It doesn't make any sense. Teriyaki. It's got ginger. Let's try this. Might have to just graduate. Not buying the ones that are all smashed in. That usually doesn't go well. And they only have one. That's crazy. Crazy. Yeah, I bought an avocado and I cut it open yesterday and it was terrible. I won't be doing that again, not until winter. They rearranged the store. That's why I can't find anything. I don't know why they do that. They do that every so often. They change everything up. And I think they do that. Well, they do that for a reason. They do that to make you spend more. Clearance. There we go.
Yeah.
That's kind of cool. Look, ladies, $5 bras. Well, let's get out of here. Oh, they changed it totally. Totally. $70. And that's just for basic stuff. How are you? They changed the store and everything. I don't know why they do that. Yeah, they moved all the islands, the registers, changed it all. It's wild. Good, how are you? good. This thing is being stupid. Won't stay put on the car. Boy, is it muggy and humid today. You can feel the air is just thick. Probably why I got this cold. You go in and out of a freezing cold building into the heat. Probably not helping. A lot of the young people that they're hiring to work in these stores, they got a horrible attitude. They don't smile. They're miserable. And I will comment on that. People have judged me for that too. If you're going to work in public, you got to have people skills. And if you don't have people skills, you shouldn't work in public. I believe that. If I had a company, and I'm sorry, I had women with a rest me biatch face, they're not going to be working in the front of the store. They're not going to be working visibly with people. I'll put them in the back room somewhere. That's just my belief. And unfortunately, because we're getting a gene pool of so many defective people today, that there's really nothing you can do about it. If I can get this in here. There we go. And I've noticed the reason people endorse that behavior is because so many people are rude today that it's become the norm. And for somebody like me to comment, you'll get some twerp on the internet saying some crap. But if you're going to work in the public, actually, if you're going to work at any job, you need to have a good attitude. And if you don't, you know, what the heck? But I've noticed this is Augusta. A lot of these young people are raised around here not with the same set of values that I was raised with. And I talk about the same set of values I was raised with, but ironically, I was abused. I was taught manners by my mother. You know, you say please and thank you, and you don't glare and stare at people. And I admit, I agree with what many of you guys said in the chat. The world is not the same as what we grew up into it or when we were young. And I think if we're honest, it's causing some grief with us. There's a denial. We don't want to admit it's that bad. And there is some grief. There's a feeling of helplessness. The young generation sucks. Not all, but a lot of them suck. They have no manners, no gratitude. They don't respect the elderly at all. And it's sad. I don't know what's going on. Wait a minute. I've had people honk at me when I stop at a red light to make a right because I don't go fast enough. I'm like, there's traffic coming and I'm not going to hurry up and get wrecked just for your patient butt. And you see what I'm even saying now. I mean, it's not bad right now. This is the best time to run errands. Very honest and accurate in my assessment of Georgia culture or Augusta. Right now, most of the a-hole culture is asleep. They're the ones that stay up all night, make noise, and bother everybody. People like me that are morning people don't want to deal with the manic throng later on. That's one thing I loved about Asia. One thing about Asia I love, they're very morning culture as a people. You won't see Asians laying around all day. That did not exist when I was over there. They are grab the day, seize the day people. That is one thing I love about Asia. In America, you'll see a pretty woman, and she's beautiful. She dolls herself up nice, but then Saturday comes, they want to lay in bed all day. I'm like, oh, that's just boring. That's just like, you died. And that's why there's an illusion with a relationship. You see the beauty. She has no sex drive. She's not interested in sex. She wants to lay around all day. And it's like, wow. And they want to spend too much for a cup of coffee at Starbucks. It's just bizarre, man. Just bizarre. That doesn't excite me. And I don't want a Hollywood woman. They're not even real. They're manufactured all the way. I guess I just like a woman that's just, Mike, let's get up early. It's beautiful. Let's go for a walk. I think that our culture is drowned in boring. I mean, look at any corner of anywhere America. Right here we got Exxon, we got Waffle House, Budget Tel, Inn and Suites. Anything on this highway right here is full of drugs, prostitutes, and pimps. If I was traveling through here, I'm not staying in any of these hotels. I will go through Augusta, and I'll go down the interstate, and I'll hit some small town and go outside that small town to a Super 8 off the interstate where it's traveling people only. I remember I stayed the night in Houston on the skids. There was a Super 8 off the interstate, and there was a truck center, and it was all the industrial area, but I got out of my truck and you could smell the pot up on the upper store balcony of the hotel or the motel. I was like, oh my gosh. My friend met me down there and he says, wow, Nels, you picked a great place to stay. I said, I know, you like that? I said, hopefully they don't rob my truck in the night. Had everything I owned in the back of it. I do wish I could get enough money to go visit all of you guys that we could do a live, spotlight your life, put it out there, and do a cross-section of America and around the world. I think it'd be fun. Nice 2-story house back there, looked like the Waltons. Tons of pine trees. I think it's pretty back in here. Very wooded, secluded. I don't know though. Sometimes life is discouraging. You know, you think about any town in the U.S., and everything revolves around money. You know, if you want to have a good time, you got to spend a lot of money. And that doesn't work for me because a good time spending money doing what? Paying too much for food at a restaurant? Getting drunk? I don't do that. I'm a practical guy. I like to go to a restaurant with good food, but reasonably priced. So I like the Mexican restaurant. It's still good value for the money and good, generous portions. You know, I don't go to Outback and Lone Star and all these restaurants on the west side of town. You know, you're looking at $100 for two people to eat dinner anymore. So we got an SUV. They're not tailgating, but they're too close for the speed at which we're going. And it always amazes me that, you know, people get mad when you go on the speed limit. Then they want to get up your butt. It's like it's Saturday morning. What's the hurry? Cut the green, cool. I'm glad it's overcast. I wish it was overcast every day in the summer here. I wish it was bad, nasty weather in the summer. It's terrible, and I said it before. That house is still for sale. I've always been curious about it. It's a brick and there's 4 acres behind it and it hasn't sold. I wonder why.